Hey church, it's great to be with you. We're going to jump right into 2 Samuel chapter 17. But before we do, I want to ask you this question. Who's the hero of your story? When life is hard, when you're experiencing fear or uncertainty about the future, what story do you start telling yourself? Do you feel like you got to double down, work harder? Do you feel like giving up and just hoping somebody will take care of itself and I hope it works out? Do you bring it to your Father in heaven? Keep those questions in mind as we dive into today's story. As you know, if you've been following along, we've been tracking with the life of David in all sorts of ways, and watching him grow from the young, anointed man up into the hero of the faith, the man after God's own heart, the wise king, and watching his missteps along the way, watching how he reacts and matures through that. And more specifically, the last couple of chapters, we've been diving into the sub-story of his son Absalom. Now, this is a graphic story. It's right out of Game of Thrones. It begins with the horrendous rape of Tamar. Then you've got fratricide, brother murdering brother. You've got Absalom exiled. He eventually returns. And what does he do? He spends 4 years at the gate, stealing the hearts and minds of the Israelites away from David and plotting to overthrow his father, to kill his dad. Patricide, actually, is the fancy Latin term for it. And we come into the story at this point. Actually, David has heard news that his son Absalom has stolen his wisest advisor, a man named Ahithophel, and he's got troops. He's coming for him. He flees Jerusalem with his family and some of his loyalists, in part humbly because he knows that this is actually the judgment that the prophet Nathan foretold back in chapter 12 because of David's infidelity with Bathsheba and his murder of Uriah the Hittite. But let's take a look at chapter 17. Here it's this turning point in the narrative. David's on the run. Absalom has the throne. He's got the power. And he's asking these two advisors. One, Ahithophel, who had betrayed David, thrown his lot in with the upstart king. And then other, Hushai, who you and I, the reader, know is actually loyal to David and in service to God and the plan that God is working out. So Absalom asks, what should I do? Ahithophel says, cut the head off the snake. Send in a SEAL team. Kill just David. Spare everyone else. They'll love you. You'll be the undisputed ruler. Great plan. Actually, pretty wise advice. Hushai, actually, though, what does he do? He speaks to Absalom's ego and that innate desire that we have that pulls us like gravity to be the hero of our own story. And he's like, no, here you are on this giant war horse. Let's gather all the armies of Israel. Let's ride out. Let's kill every single last one of them, leaving no question in anyone's mind who the undisputed ruler is, who should not be messed with. Well, you'll have to read on to chapter 18 to find out the end of Absalom's story. But I think it's important to key into what happens there, which is that Absalom falls for the lie that he is the hero, that it's all about him. When in reality, it's not true, right? And that's actually freeing. This story, a temptation to feel like it's up to me, I'm the hero of my own story. It reminds me actually of a time before Kelly and I got married. We had started dating, and I took a look at my finances and realized I'd been a really bad steward. I had some credit card debt, and it was really, really a source of shame for me. And I desired that by the time that we were married to have it paid off. But I sat down, I did the math, and there was no way that was going to happen. In that moment, I just remember experiencing such shame and such panic because I had believed the lie that it was up to me. I had to be the hero of my own story. Now, granted, the stakes of my story here are a little bit different than in Absalom and David, but the principle is the same. Now, my story turns out incredible because God moves in miraculous ways. I mean, seriously, like the crazy stuff where people just like, hey, God told me to give you this money. It's way more complicated than that. I'd love to share the whole story with you sometime because it's an incredible tale of the heart of God, the generous Father heart of God to provide for his kids, to bless them, to relieve from us, take from me the burden that it was up to me and I had to be the hero of my own story. And that's what David models for us time and time again. Even though he is the hero in many ways, he is the hero because he understands when it's time to confess, when it's time to repent, when it's time to step back and to let God be faithful to his promises. The promise that God made to David back in chapter 7, that he would protect his household, he would protect his lineage, and he would demonstrate who he is, the God of David, the God of Israel, the provider. So, church, take encouragement today that you have a Father in heaven, that it's not up to you. You don't have to do it on your own power. Take heart, take encouragement, love boldly, love fiercely, and be humble because of that knowledge.